for joining us. We know some of you are here in the room, and many of you are listening. Many are listening from a distance on the podcast. And we're so thrilled you're here to learn the Torah of Rav Kook with Rav Yitzchak out of Jerusalem, one of the great teachers of Rav Kook Torah, and the most responsible for holding up the Torah, the legacy of Rav Kook today, to ensure that his particularism and universalism, his unique Torah, is here to inspire and move us forward towards redemption, stage by stage. Unfortunately, today we have to end 10 minutes early, so please forgive us. We have to end at 10 minutes before the hour today due to some abnormal scheduling on our end. But this is session 8 of 10. So we have this one and then the next two. And please do let us know if you've been listening from a distance on podcasts, because we want to continue this learning and are looking for those who might support in enabling us to take this to the next level together. Very important. So Rav Yitzchak is going to be a host here, and he's going to share a screen so we can learn together. Thank you so much.
Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, and it's Erev Pesach in Yerushalayim, and we're entering the Chag HaGeula, and we have the opportunity to learn the Torah HaGoelet, the liberated Torah, the liberating Torah, the Torah that is understood by the inner circle of the generations, the Torah of Rav Avraham Yitzchak Cohen-Cook, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. And today we'll focus in on, we're going through his teaching about the fourfold song, but we'll also use that as in connected to Pesach and conclude it with a piece from his Haggadah. But to bring us into the context, one of his most amazing pieces of Torah, he uses the understanding that God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is an unfolding, Yud, Yud Kei, Vav, Yud Kei, Vav Kei. And the 4 unfoldings are Yesh Shehu Shar Shirat Nafsho. The first is when we're singing the song of our own soul, of our own beings and ourselves. We find everything, our full spiritual satisfaction. And then as we develop, we start Titrachev Natsho, and then the second level is Yishar Shirata Uma. We sing, we emerge, we sing the song of our nation. We emerge from the circle of our individual self, that we don't find it broad or refined enough, and we're not idealistic enough, and we cleave with a fine love to the entire collective of the community of Israel. And with all of Israel, we sing her song, our Meitzar Betzaroshtea V'Mishta'ashea Betikvotea. We are saddened in her sufferings. We suffer in her sufferings, and we rejoice in her hopes. And I have to say a very special, I can't not say it. Mishtasheh has got to, you were also entertained in some way. And if it wasn't so, like the political situation is, you have to take it as entertainment as a way, because it's going to make a wonderful movie one day. But it's crazy what's going on here right now. But that's the Song of Israel, and we're all involved in it together, and so on and so forth. But we're also, thank God, wonderful things are happening here while the politicians are doing their things. And so that's the song of our nation. And we sing that. And then today we're going to the next level. And the next level is Yesh asher od titrachev nafsho. there is the one in that part of ourselves in which our spirit reaches further. Ad sheyotze umitpashet mi'al gvul Israel, when we emerge going beyond the boundary of Israel. Lashir et shirat ha'adam, to sing the song of humankind. Rucho holech umitrachev begaon klalut ha'adam v'hod tzalmo, our spirit extends to the wider vistas of the majesties of humankind. We aspire for our humankind's general goal, and we look forward for humankind's higher perfection. And from this source of life, we draw the subjects of our meditations and our study, our aspirations and our vision. Rucho holech umitrachev begaon klalut ha'adam v'hod tzalmo. Our spirit expands to include all humankind and the splendor of the divine image of all humankind. And what we want is all humankind's destiny to be fulfilled, and we're looking forward lehishtalmuto ha'elyona. We're looking forward to the shleimut, to the hishtalmut, the highest shleimut and hishtalmut of all, for all humankind. And from this, mekor ha'chaim zeh hu sho'efet klalato. And from here we take our thinking and our investigations, our aspirations and our visions. And so here I want to offer a real blessing for everything that Rabbi Shmuley, that you're initiating, because I think that's one of the, you're singing the song for all humankind, and the concerns of Israel are the concerns for everyone. And you're going past the boundary of Israel, singing the song of humankind, and may it bring many, many great blessings, because the understanding that this is the unfolding of the divine for us to do this. So that's the third level. Yotze ad shetitrachev nafsho yotze umitpashet mi'al gvul Israel lashir et shirat ha'adam, to sing the song of humankind. So, taking that as a context, let's see where and how Rav Kook, and he writes about this extensively. It's harder to decide what not to include than to find pieces where he discusses this. But with your permission and participation, I think I'm going to read almost completely in English, so that we can go through the material and more quickly, and rather than have to translate it. So this first piece is kind of, I'll go back and forth, but I will focus on the English. But the Nazir titled this piece by Rav Kook as Hatikun Ha'elyon, the higher perfection, the higher repair. A chaotic world stands before us. As long as we have not reached the state of higher perfection, of uniting all life forces and all their diverse tendencies, as long as each one exalts themselves, saying, I will be sovereign, me, no one else, there cannot be peace in our midst, and God's name cannot be associated with us, because God's name is Shalom. And it's only from Shalom and through Shalom that the light of truth becomes manifest. And therefore, all our endeavors must be directed toward disclosing the Or HaShalom HaKlali. All our endeavors have to be to uncover the light of universal shalom, the light of universal harmony. And how do we have the light of universal harmony? It's derived not from suppressing any power, any thought, any tendency, but bringing all powers, thoughts, and tendencies into the vast ocean of infinite light. תוך הים הגדול של אור אין סוף, ששם הכל מתאחד, הכל מתרומם, מתעלה, מתרומם, והכל מתקדש. It's in the vast ocean of infinite light. All things have their unity. All is ennobled, exalted. All is holy. All is kadeshed. And all our efforts, the efforts of Israel as the state of Israel, the people of Israel, have to be directed towards uncovering the Or HaShalom HaKlali. So may we be blessed to do that. And therefore, it's important for us to understand, and this is from another piece in his writings in Orot HaKodesh. These pieces are drawn from his, the Shmone Kvatzim, the 8 notebooks that he wrote between 1904 and 1919. And the Nazir, Rav Kook's main student, who I've shown pictures of him before, put these together, framing the thought world of Rav Kook and presenting it to Am Yisrael in Orot HaKodesh. And it's really one of the most brilliant illuminated works of Torah in the history of works of Torah. We must liberate ourselves from confinement within our private concerns. In order to be touched by the Or HaShalom HaKlali, to disclosing the light of the universal peace, we must liberate ourselves from confinement within our private concerns. Because if we're confined in our private concerns, this reduces us to the worst kind of smallness and brings upon us endless physical and spiritual distress. It is necessary for us to raise our thought and our will, our basic preoccupations, to universality, to the inclusion of all, to the humankind, to the Jewish people, to all existence. Notice the order here. Towards universality, the inclusion of all, to the whole world, to humankind, to the Jewish people, to all existence. The firmer our vision of universality, the greater joy we will experience and the more we will merit divine illumination. May we be blessed to develop divine illumination. And in a work called Rav Kook's main, which called his Musar work, Midot Haraya, which he wrote in Europe in his 30s. And it goes through a number of character traits, and it's in alphabetical order. So the first one is Ahava, love. And he says like this, Ahava tzricha liot mle'a balev lakol. The heart must be filled with love for all. The love of all creation comes first. Then comes the love for all humankind, and then follows the love for the Jewish people, in which all other loves are included. It is the destiny of the Jewish people, the children of Israel, to serve towards the perfection of all things. She'atidin Israel. I prefer the word Israel than the word Jewish people. That Israel is destined to repair all activities. And this love to serve towards the perfection of all things. And this love has to be expressed in practical action, pursuing the welfare of those we are bidden to love and to seek their advancement. Practical action, making sure that they have clothes and food, and if they're in sort of imprisoned, I'm just thinking of what I see, what Rabbi Shmuley is involved in. but practical action. Otherwise it's not love. We have to pursue, we have to chase the welfare for the well-being of those we're bidden to love, and we have to seek their advancement. Kol HaTorah, the entire Torah, HaMusar, its ethics, its moral teachings, the commandments, HaMitzvah, HaMaaseh v'HaTalmud, the deed and the learning, all, and this is quite a strong statement. Why does the Torah exist in the world? Why do we have the Torah in the world? Kol HaTorah and all its activities, hem ba'im lifnot et michsholei hadrachim. They're coming to remove the roadblocks. Shetuchal ahavat olamei olamim zot lehitpashet. So that this eternal universal love can spread. Lehitrachev al kol kikarei hachaim al kol merachveihem. To expand to all the avenues of life, to all realms of life and their complete expansion. The entire Torah, all its teachings, mitzvot, good deeds of the studies, its objective is to remove the roadblocks so that universal love should be able to spread, to extend to all realms of life. Nothing less than that. And therefore, in a piece which is called Ahavat Olam, or universal love, great souls can't dissociate themselves from the most universal concerns. All they desire and aspire is for the universal good, universal in its comprehensiveness, universal in its full width, height, and depth. But the entire whole is constituted in numerous, numberless particulars, particular individuals, particular communities. The whole is made up of so many particulars. And the whole cannot achieve its highest fulfillment except through the perfection of its particular individuals and the particular communities, large and small, of which it is constituted. When love-possessed people see the world living creatures full of quarrels, hatred, persecution, and conflicts, our world. When love-possessed people see the world, they yearn with all their being to share in those aspirations that move life towards wholeness, unity, peace, and tranquility. They want that every particular shall be preserved and developed, and that the collective whole shall be united and abounding in peace. That's what we want. That's what Israel wants. That's what every love-possessed person wants. This one is actually written in Notebook 1. It's one of the early entries. It's probably closer, according to the latest theory, of he started writing these notebooks like around 1910. So it's, but on the cover, it says this is from 1904 to 1914. So, but it's in his Yafo period when he was starting to experience a great illumination. Rav Kook came to Israel when he was 39 years old to be the rabbi of Yafo. And when he came to Yafo, his level of illumination increased. Yeah, I don't know what the right word is, but he had an extraordinary illumination that began as he entered Israel and for the rest of his life. And then in one of the most remarkable books, there is a book, I don't have to, I'll show you the cover for no reason but to show you the cover. Rav Kook knew he was coming to Yafo in 1902. They started the negotiation to bring him to Israel. His father-in-law was already the assistant chief rabbi of Jerusalem. And the Aderet. And Rav Kook sat down and wrote his longest single book, It's 57 chapters, and it's called the new guide to the perplexed, Lenevuchei Hador, and it goes through 57 chapters, and it's his most far-reaching revolutionary thought, and it's why it wasn't published. It was hidden. He wrote it, they put it away, and it was first published 10 years ago. Very few people had read it until 10 years ago. And I have a daily learning of Rav Kook on Zoom, and we're actually reading through this book. Right now we're taking a break. We're learning Pesach material, but after Pesach we'll be returning. We're on chapter 37, but they're all different, so you can join us at any time. It's 7 o'clock p.m. Jerusalem time, Sunday to Thursday. And from this book, we find the following quote: "It is necessary that all human beings recognize that they must live together as brothers and sisters. And after we go through a process of clarification and transformation, we will all join together as brothers and sisters of one family. Then all humankind will be bound up together in brotherlyhood, in brother and sisterhood. We will be a family who, of course, divide among ourselves the chores of the house in order to increase its success and blessing. And everyone will do their part in the United Nations." And it's so fascinating that the League of Nations began at the same time that Israel was it was part of the birth of Israel. And it's very clear that the work of Israel is to turn the United Nations into really the United Nations, rather than the Amalek's attack force on Israel. All right. So now let's continue. This one, it's not a good, Magamat HaYechudim is the title the Nazir gave to this, the purpose of our unifications. All the defects of the world, material and spiritual, are derived from the fact that every individual sees only one aspect of existence that pleases them, and all other aspects that are uncomprehended by them seek to deserve purging from the world. This thought that whatever is outside one's own is destructive and disturbing leaves its imprint on individuals, groups, generations, and epochs. The result is a multiplication of conflict. Welcome to history. The more clearly one studies the character of individual human souls, the more baffled we see the difference between personalities. But it's exactly because of differentiations that we are all united towards one objective: to contribute towards the perfection of the world, each person, each country, according to their special talent. The opposites are to be integrated and related to the other. Rav Kook's Torah, the other way they describe one of the features of Rav Kook's Torah, it's the Torah of integration, the tzavot, the ends, and the tree of life is based on that, right? Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. Tiferet is the blending of Chesed and Gvura and so forth. And that's the opposites are integrated. And so then, through the fusion of all the diverse minds and physiognomies, right? He's talking about how genetically different races, there emerges a unified structure of consummate harmony. So therefore, how far do we have to understand that even the ones that are different from us are part of the family? When we reflect on the Agadah, כשאנו מתבוננים על האגדה האומרת מבני בניו של סיסרא Limdu Torah beYerushalayim. When we reflect on the measures that says the children of Sisera, the Canaanite general, taught Torah in Yerushalayim, and Bnei Banav Shel Haman Limdu Torah beBnei Brak. Lamdu Torah, it can be read both ways, that the children, the descendants of Haman, taught Torah in Bnei Brak. That's the Medrash, it's in the Gemara Gittin. When we reflect on the Agadah, that descendants of Sisera taught Torah in Yerushalayim, descendants of Haman taught Torah in Bnei Brak, and also the descendants of Sennacherib taught Torah in public, we reach the depth of compassion which calls on us not to be caught up in a stream of hatred, even of our fiercest enemy. We are called upon to reach the depth of compassion and not to be caught up in a stream of hatred, even of our fiercest enemy. The highest sensibility in the soul of the people of Israel is the quest for universality. This people of Israel, we aspire this by the very essence of our being, and this affects all our existence. Our entire process of tshuva is rooted in this hidden longing. And here, once again, I want to dedicate this to Rabbi Shmuley. The soul of the people of Israel expresses itself in the striving for absolute justice, which, in order to be effectuated, include the realization of all moral virtues. This is from Orot HaTshuvah, which was published in Rav Kook's lifetime. There's a few of his books were written. This was published in 1925. And that's what he was telling us then, and he's telling us now. The soul of the people of Israel expresses itself in the striving for absolute justice. The call to be committed to the principle of universality, the divine ensemble where all things have their being, this call is the essence of the soul of the righteous, of the tzaddikim, who walk before God. We're leading God to bring this about. And what is it all about? The Torah of Israel clarifies how the existence of the world and human ethics are dependent on each other. That's what it's about. It's not about religion. It is clear that the improvement of the world is dependent on ethical improvement. And this is the essence of the Israelite way of understanding the Creator. This is what God is and what we're directed to do as Tzelem Elokim. The improvement of the world is dependent on ethical improvement. So may we really come to bring forth the perfection of the world in our lifetime. And please, Roberta, can you let us just say amen?
Amen. Amen.
All right. At this point, we've covered enough to show that Rav Kook is speaking about the third level of the song. What's the fourth level if this is the third level? But this is the Israel is the force of universalism in the world. And if anybody wants to say anything and so forth, we're going to just go into the Haggadah. It'll be connected, but we're going to go into the Haggadah. And next week we'll go into the fourth level of the fourfold song. So if anybody wants to ask anything or say anything, this is a good time.
May I ask a question, please?
Please.
I was busy davening Shabbos, and your shiur came into my brain. And when it says, "Lahagid ba'boker chazdecha v'emunatecha b'leilot," it seems, according to Rav Kook, In the Boker, you have or, it's in singular, but you need emuna at night because leilot is plural. Would that be something that Rav Kook would think?
Yes, I think very much so. I mean, the ultimate light is in the unification. But I have to tell you, thank you for that question, Rabbi Allen, because it fits in perfectly to what the Haggadah part that I decided to bring to us. So let's see if he's going to answer that question with what we're going to share from the Haggadah.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah, it's a perfect intro. You'll see. Okay. This is taken from Rav Kook's Haggadah, which is a collection of his writings on Pesach, and he wrote a lot about Pesach. Israel nitnasu lecherut b'yetziat Mitzrayim. Israel was elevated for liberation at the coming out of Egypt. Zot hi cherut elyona. This is an elevated liberation. What is liberation? Shichrur haratzon, freedom of will. Chofesh ha'ofi, the freedom of one's own basic essential nature, one's own tzelem Elokim. And this is the highest reality that needs to be spread throughout the entire world. We need to bring to the entire world or hacherut ha'elyon, the light of this highest cherut. Shehu tzarich liot holech v'nikneh, that the entire world needs to experience. And matzah, hi lechem oni v'lechem cherut. Matzah, the bread of affliction, the bread of freedom. When the Holy One revealed himself and liberated us to eternal freedom, then the quality of freedom was embedded in our soul. Freedom of will that prepared us to divine service in its ideal form. The ideal form is that we serve the divine completely out of free will. And in other places, he might explain this, but what he also explains is that we learned in Egypt by going through the process of enslavement how we learned two things. We learned not to be enslaved to a human being, but we did learn the quality of submission to a higher force. But we learned throughout the entire process that submission, we need to apply it to a Kadosh Baruch Hu and not to any Pharaoh or Mitzrayim. So we learned the quality of submission, but we learned this quality of submission to the holy. But we also learned now to do it out of complete free will, not because we're compelled to, but this is our choice to do this. And the Pharaoh, the Mitzrayim experience taught us all this. And Zot hi razol, this is the universal secret of matzah, giving us laten koach chofshi becherut hachodesh, to give us a complete freedom in our, I think, service of the holiness. And now he brings the medrash, where Ben Zoma says, the pasuk says, "Leman tiskor et yemei tzeitecha mi'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha." Sorry. That we need to remember all our days of coming out from Eretz Mitzrayim, all the days of our life. Kol yemei chayecha. Yemei chayecha, Ben Zoma says, are the days. Kol yemei chayecha halelot, the nights. All the days of your life. The word kol is leilot, and the sages, they disagree. The sages say, no, yemei chayecha is HaOlam-The, kol yemei chayecha is Yemot HaMashiach. So that's the argument. And Rav Kook has a long drasha in this, and I'll try to summarize it. And I think it responds to what we're talking about. To understand the reason for the argument between Ben Zoma and the sages, and what the argument is, do we have to remember the Exodus from Egypt at night, or is it at the daytime? Because they don't say the daytime, they don't make a differentiation between day or night, where Ben Zoma says, no, it has to be done at night. It's necessary to understand every activity in the world has its preparation, hachana, and its purpose or fulfillment, tachlit. And if it's a great important matter, then the hachana is nichbeda, the preparation is really waiting, but the purpose, the fulfillment is always something greater than the preparation. And the way the world works, the day is the purpose, and the night is the preparation as we rest at night, in order to work during the day. The night is the hachana, the day is the tachlit. And in the process of Yetziat Mitzrayim, we also had these two aspects, tachlit atzmi, the essential purpose, and the preparation, the hachana. The purpose, what was the purpose? The purpose of the Exodus was to make known to us the greatness of God and God's divine providence and love to his descendants of the children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We see that God is with us and that God loves us. That's what we came to know through the experience of both Shibud Mitzrayim and Yetziat Mitzrayim. But Yetziat Mitzrayim was brought the point home. But then he has to say, we have to understand that this also was a preparation, because lo nigmar tikun kol ha'olam b'yetziat Mitzrayim. We didn't reach the liberation of the entire world when we emerged from Egypt. We were liberated, but not the entire world. But the Exodus from Egypt prepared us in a holy way, made known to us God's special love. We need to understand that that process of bringing that to fulfillment was actually part of a larger process, which was a hachana, la derech legeula ha'atida. This was the preparation for the path of the future universal liberation and redemption. ההכנה להכין אותנו לקראת השלמות היותר נפלאה. The emergence from Egypt was to prepare us for the most wonderful shlemut that we will reach, begeulat ha'atida. We're not there at shlemut. We came into Israel and took care of ourselves, but the world remained in terrible situation. And therefore, מצד ההכנה לעתיד ראוי להזכיר יציאת מצרים בלילה. And that's why, in terms of the preparation for the future, it's appropriate for us to remember the Exodus at night, reminding us that we are still in the process of hachana to the geula of the redemption. And that's why we're here sitting here at night. We're still noticing, we might be, but the world is still controlled by Pharaoh and the forces of limitation, Meitzarim of Mitzrayim. The essential purpose, the reason we tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim is for the future. Al Shem Ha'atid, La'achin Otanu El HaGeula Ha'atidah, to prepare us for the future liberation, the future redemption, and Koach HaGeula, the power of this redemption is awakened through the telling of the story, and therefore Mekoma Balayla Velo Bayom. We do this at night to remind us that we're still in a planetary process of preparation. There is still adayin ein cherut amitit ba'olam. There isn't true freedom in the world. Ein HaOlam Ga'ul Adain Mikvalav Avdutiim. The world is not yet liberated and freed from its chains of enslavement. The redemption continue, and with this we complete. This is this was written in Orot, in the essay Orot Yisrael V'Tchiato. This was in the original Orot, which was published in 1921, and he may have written this essay during World War I, because Orot is divided into a few essays, but the last one is called "The Lights of Israel and Tchiato," its rebirth. And Ha'geula nimshechet hi v'holechet. Redemption is going forth, developing. Geulat Mitzrayim, Geulat ha'atida shlema. The liberation from Egypt and the liberation of the future complete redemption. Hi pe'ula achad she'ena poseket. Is one unending action. The action of the yad ha'chazaka v'hazroya ha'netuya. The strong hand, outstretched arm that began in Egypt and continues its activity throughout all events of history, all the mesibot and all the consciousnesses, all the events. Moshe ve'Eliyahu go'alim heim legeula achad. Moses and Elijah are liberating us towards one liberation. Hamatchil v'hagomer, the beginner and the closer. Hapoteach v'hachotem, the opener, the beginning and the complete, the ender, the opener and the closer. Hem yachad mimal'im et hachativa, the two of them together complete the unit. And Ruach Yisrael Makshivhu et kol hatnuot shel ha'peulot ha'geula, and the spirit of Israel is hearing. This is worth. The spirit of Israel is hearing the call of these movements towards redemption. HaHolchot bechol ha'mesibot, that are happening throughout all eventualities, all historical events. Ad melo tzmichat keren ha'Yeshua bimlo'a v'tova, until will be sprouted the complete horn of salvation. The complete salvation will be complete in all its fullness and goodness. So may we be blessed this Seder night and always to hear the call of Geula, the Peulot of Geula, as they're going forth. And may we really be blessed to experience the Geula.
Amen. Amen.
The Geula ha'atida. And through, and understand it's
Amen.
through our activities. It's in
Beautiful.
our hands to do, but God's zroya netuyah. With this I'll end. Rav Kook says in the Haggadah, the zroya netuyah, the work of Israel, is also to reach out, and then we join our hands together. The zroya netuyah is reaching out to us to join hands in bringing the divine reality into this world. And let us join Roberta Venomar.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. You know, it's Rav Yitzchak. It's totally gewaldic. It's totally amazing that, you know, you could imagine someone in the 21st century talking about this universalism. But for Rav Kook, who emerges from a shtetl and lands in the Medina, or in, you know, Ba'aretz, it is remarkable how he understands that the redemption of Klal Yisrael is interconnected with the redemption of humanity, and what life events could have happened to such a person? It can't purely be spiritual enlightenment. What life events could happen to a person?
Very good question. That's a very good question, but I don't know any life event. There isn't a record of that. He seemed to be born from, as a young child, his illumination was apparent to everybody around him. And his level of understanding, he's called in the books, and even in his own time, he's described Neshama Klali, a universal soul, with the teaching being that certain universal souls enter history at certain times in order to bring us to the next level. He is the soul for human, and it's the teachings of the Torah to their ultimate depth and breadth and expansion.
It's amazing. It's such a great spiritual curriculum for us, because I think that we often think, and it is important to have dialogue. You know, people of different races, different religions. We need dialogue to understand each other and respect each other. And we only get so far. And yet, as a spiritualist, how far he could go without, you know. So let me say one thing, because I know we have to end. One amazing thing that you said among so much else is this notion that Mitzrayim was to learn submission. I mean, this is so amazing, to learn submission so that we could channel that submission differently. And I wonder how this squares up with, you know, the Gemara says that Am Yisrael is chosen for Matan Torah. The Jewish people received the Torah at Sinai because they're O's. They're stubborn. They're a stubborn people. And so it seems there's two dueling traits here, right? One, like a submissive people who learn submission in Mitzrayim, and one is kind of a difficult, challenging, edgy, stubborn people who are the people who should receive Torah. And I wonder, how do you jive these two together here?
Well, you know, Rav Kook's teaching is our work is to be completely avdut Hashem, to give ourselves to the larger ideal, and to be true to our inner essence, to speak our truth in whatever situation we're in. And that can sometimes appear as stiff-necked people and so forth. But I think it's that combination of being truly ourselves. Sometimes, and I think that's my response to that, you know, offhand.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you a great night, and thank you all so much for joining.
And so, Chol Hamoed, we'll see you. Thank you so much.